it's Allison, and today on Thinking Outside the Box, I am going to show you how I created these faux crystal lotus flowers. The color shifting in these is absolutely amazing. They just glow. I'm also going to show you how using the same product will create a metallic effect when done with a different process. So you'll get a little less color shifting, but if you're going for that metallic look, oh, these are luscious. This again is the same product, but doing a different technique with it. And depending on the types of molds you use and shapes, you will get different color shifting effects. Like this one shifts a lot from purple to gold or violet to gold. Whereas this one has a little bit of gold in it at certain angles, but also has pink. But you can see the shifting going on. These are amazing. You can use them as knickknacks, as paperweights. You can put them on the top of jar candles on the lid and make that into a really pretty gift. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up with supplies needed, and I'll be back. Okay, the supplies that I used to create the lotus flowers and the wand are these molds that Catholic Studios on Etsy sent me, and this is the wand mold. These are very high quality molds. They are silicone, but they're a very high grade silicone, and she offers them at an incredible price. I mean, you just can't get this kind of a mold for the prices that she has. You also get a lot of extras, which is really cool. And this mold produces a shiny cast, and that's what it looks like after casting. And it's very shiny. And it looks pretty just like that, but you can turn it into something even prettier. So that's that mold, and this is the lotus mold, and that is a very thick mold, as you can see with my fingers. And you also get a lot of little extra gems and flowers and stuff on here. And this mold produces a matte finish. That's the one I chose. She also has one that will produce a shiny finish like this, but this one will give you a flower that has a matte finish, and that looks even pretty all by itself. But we're going to turn that into something even prettier. So that is matte. I believe that these, I have not tried them yet, but these look like, all these little extras look like they're going to come out shiny. But this is definitely matte. Now, I have probably made, oh gosh, 20 castings out of this, and this mold is still in excellent shape. I used some Super Shift powders. These are a synthetic mica, and these are used in the auto industry to create the amazing special effect paint jobs on cars. I used the Radioactive Rain, and this says a half gram, but she sells them by the gram. And I also used the Aurora Night Skies, and that will also be a 1 gram. And these can also be purchased in her shop. You're going to need a 2-part resin to make your casts. You could use UV resin, but considering the size of these molds, that would take an awful lot of UV resin, and UV resin is far more expensive than the 2-part. So I suggest using the 2-part. To achieve this effect, this metallic look, you will only be able to get that with the 2-part. So it's best just to be cost conscious and go with that. You're going to need some toothpicks. You are going to need, depending on how you finish off the back of your project, I put a black on the background, and to do that, all I used was some Born Pretty no wipe gel polish in black, and it cures under the UV lamp. So very convenient and very fast. You could also tint your resin with some alcohol ink, and this is the Pinata black. So whichever route you want to go, but you're going to want to put that black background on there. You're going to want some toothpicks. You're going to want a torch. You're going to need a UV lamp. I suggest a 36 watt nail lamp. Works perfect. You'll get a very quick and consistent cure. Of course, you're going to need some UV resin, and this is where the magic comes in for the color shifting on these beauties here. You're also going to need some, and I use 240 grit sandpaper. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up, and I'll be back. Just to let you know, everything, the molds and the powders, I will have links to below this video in the description. So you may see the description there. If not, you'll have to click on a little arrow to open it up. But the links for these products will be in there. So go ahead and give Catlick Studios on Etsy a look. She makes a lot of wonderful molds. She also has many more color shifts. I only used these 2. So go check her out. You're going to love her shop. I'll be back when I'm all set up. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make a cast of your Lotus in your mold. I am not going to show you that in this tutorial to save time. I'm trying to shorten my tutorials a little bit. There are lots of tutorials on YouTube on how to do castings with 2-part resin. If it's something that you want me to show you in a future tutorial, I have no problems doing that. Just let me know. So you're going to make a cast of your Lotus mold, and I've got mine here. And I wanted to also show you, I don't think I mentioned it, but this particular one is made with the radioactive rain, and this one is made with the Aurora night skies. So we're going to go ahead and recreate this one, which is the radioactive rain. And it's just, my favorite color, purple, of course, but all the other colors in it, and the fact that it just glows like mad. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I've made my casting, and what you want to do now is take your sandpaper, and you want to rough up the back, because we are going to be putting some more resin on here. And this is very shiny on the back, and we want to get that shiny off. So I'm just going to go ahead and rough that up. I'm going to finish this off camera. I'll see you in a bit. The reason we wanted to rough this up a little with the sandpaper, and you want to make sure to get the petals as well, is because we're going to be applying a very thin coat of UV resin, and it helps for that resin to adhere to the other resin. And it also shows you, because this was so shiny, it's really hard to see if you've missed any spots. And when you rough it up, it gives it kind of a matte finish. And that way you can see where your resin's going. So what I like to do is I get these little silicone bowls from TKB, and I like to just set my flower on there. And let me zoom you in a little. And making sure that it's level, you want to go ahead and get a toothpick out. And we are going to apply a thin layer of UV resin. Then you go ahead and just spread this out to all the edges. And be careful that you don't go over. Make sure every part of the flower is coated with the UV resin. Got a little bit of dirt there. Get that off. Taking it all the way up to the edges. All the way around. Making sure that everything is covered in the middle. And you have not missed any areas. That will affect the outcome if you miss spots. So that's another reason I like to rough up that back, is so that I can really see that I've covered everything. All right, that looks good. So I'm making sure that this is level. And my next step, I am going to get rid of any bubbles by just running my torch over the top. And when you do that, you can also see if you've missed any spots when you look at it from an angle. And this all looks good. So what I'm going to do now, and this is very important, I'm going to put this under my UV lamp for 1 minute and 30 seconds. I have a 36 watt UV lamp, and you don't want it to fully cure. You just want it to be to kind of like a sticky point. So 1 minute and 30 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back. All right, this is partially cured, so it's just a little sticky. So the next step is where the magic comes in. I'm going to go ahead and get out my radioactive rain. And I like to use these little applicators that you would use for eyeshadow. And what we're going to do is we're going to coat the whole back. And this really takes very little powder. Turn my air conditioner off so these powders don't blow away. So it, like I said, this takes very little powder. And just coating the whole back. And you will see how simple this is. You just rub it on there. And I just put a little teeny bit on my applicator, just a little, and just burnish it in. You don't want to burnish really hard, you know, but enough that you know that it's on there. I love this part because I love how sparkly and shiny it looks. taking it all the way to the edges. Now the reason you need to put the UV resin on here is because these powders really like to stick to UV resin and not come off. Whereas with the regular resin, they don't stick like this. You'll just get a very super light coating, which will give you hardly any effect at all. All right, just making sure I got all my edges. And I'm going to go ahead and close my powder up. I have learned to do that immediately when I'm done with it because I have spilled and then I have cried. All right, so this is what it looks like on the back. And when you flip it over, you have a really pretty effect. You could just leave it like this. It's a more subtle effect, more soft. But I'm going to take this a step further and give it a black background, which will really make these colors pop. But first, I need to put this under the UV lamp just to let this back fully cure. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I put it under for about 4 minutes. I'll be there. All right, next up we are applying the black to it. And I'm going to go ahead and put it level again. And this is where you could take your UV resin and pour some in a little silicone bowl, add some of your black alcohol ink. Don't add too much because you will affect the cure of the resin if you do, but you can do that. I love this. This is my go-to when it doesn't come off. It's just like UV resin, but it's for nails. So I'm going to go ahead and paint that on the back. And you don't want to put a really thin layer and you don't want a really thick layer because it will be much harder to cure. But I have found that this Born Pretty in colors is the best gel polish, UV gel polish on the market. This black, I put it under my lamp and within 7 minutes, it is cured. And it gets all the way through. So you want to make sure you're taking this up to your edges and you're going to go all the way around. Just painting it on there. Again, you want to keep your piece as level as you can. I tell you, with the amount of gel polish I buy from Born Pretty, I should own stock in the company. I mean, I've tried. I've gone to Sally. You definitely want no wipe. I cannot stand the stuff that you have to wipe after it's cured. It just leaves this greasy film or oily film, and it's just so much easier to go with a no wipe because it's a lot quicker. And I have forgotten to wipe it, and then my project was ruined after adding a coat of resin to the back of it, and because it won't stick with that oil on there. It'll eventually all come off. So just remember, no wipe is the best way to go. All right, I'm just going around and making sure that all my edges, I've gotten up to all the edges without going over. And that looks good. I am gonna go ahead and put this under my UV lamp for 7 minutes, and I'll see you in a bit. All right, it is out from under the UV lamp and fully cured. So the last step you would do is just put a very thin layer of UV resin all the way around, and that will totally protect the back of your piece, and it will also even, if you can see, the gel nail polish kind of leaves an uneven finish. Putting a coat of UV resin on there, it'll level it out and it'll be completely flat and perfect. So here we go. Just like the other one and way more intense. I am loving these colors. I am loving these super shifts. To achieve the metallic, I'm not going to go through every single step to do it because there's really only two steps that are going to be different. And that is taking your mold, taking your Super Shift powder. You're going to dip your applicator into the powder and you're just going to rub inside every part of your mold and making sure that all of it's covered. And you'll see that the little bit of powder that was left on this applicator, it sticks right to the silicone. When you do it, make sure you get these little edges up here too. That really makes a difference in your finished piece. Then it will all be metallic. And you just keep dipping and you just keep wiping every little part. I like to get the very tips by pushing in with my applicator, having some of the powder on the tip, pushing in, and you can get your edges with here. And when you're done, just double check it and make sure that you got everything. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take a 2-part resin, not your UV resin. This mold is too big for that. And this will not stick to the UV resin, which is really weird. But I think because it cures so quickly, it still stays on the mold. It needs to have a resin sitting on it, you know, curing for 12 to 24 hours, and it grabs it right off the mold. So you're going to mix up a batch of 2-part resin, and you are going to add either resin dye, if you have it, or the black alcohol ink to color your resin black. So you'll be pouring black resin into that. And this is what the backs of those look like. And as you can see, they're nice and flat and shiny. And then you're done with those. That's it. This isn't going to rub off. This is there permanently. So there you have it. Pretty easy, pretty simple. Doesn't take a lot of time. The only time really is waiting on that 2-part resin to cure, which, I hate doing it, but sometimes you gotta. Sometimes UV resin doesn't always work. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you found it helpful and that it inspired you. And go check out Catlick Studios on Etsy. She is an amazing woman with amazing products. Until next time, thanks for watching and have a great weekend. Bye for now.